It's my honor now to introduce Lee Leachman to you. Known the family for a long time. Lee was born in the cattle family. A number of his relatives are famous, so the name's very well known. He did have an email from Ken Show the other night making comment about how well known the hairpin brand is. Lee's unique in a lot of ways. One of the things that's unique about him is that he has an honors in economics from Harvard. He's then gone on to do some animal breeding courses at the graduate level at CSU. He is involved with a breeding operation in Colorado. He lives in Colorado with his wife and son, wife Lisa and son Graham. And he's also had the opportunity to travel extensively, not just throughout the United States, but North America, involved with some operations in South America, New Zealand, Australia, Britain, etc. So he has that opportunity to get around and see a lot of different things from a lot of different places. And I know you're going to enjoy his presentation this afternoon. So can we please give him an Ontario welcome to Lee Leachman.
Can you hear me okay? Clear in the back? Everything, you can hear me? Good, good. Well, you know, it's fun to be here. Last time I was in Ontario was 5 years ago, and when Brian told me I was going to be doing one of the keynotes, you know, then the pressure's on you. You got to come up with something interesting, right? But fortunately, I'm 1,500 miles from home, so I'm an expert. And I'm going to talk to you about predictions 10 years from now. And looking at the average age in the audience, most of you won't remember what I said by then. So, you know, it's a pretty safe deal, right? I started giving this talk a couple years back. I actually put on a program prior to one of our bull sales in Colorado, and I invited in a panel of speakers and asked them to just come up with one thing. And, you know, you get speakers and you only give them about 10 minutes to talk, and you really make them focus on what the one thing is they're going to talk about. And I got all done with that, and I thought, if I just steal all their ideas, I have a really good talk. And so kind of what I'm going to present tonight is a little bit of that, a little bit of a combination of other people's ideas. But I think we are at sort of a changing time in agriculture, and it's interesting to think about what's going on globally and how it's going to affect our businesses. Because really, if you're like we are, we're making breeding decisions today, literally, that are going to affect what we're going to have for sale next year, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. Okay? So we really have to think about these trends. Trends that affect our business. And we need to try to be on the right side of the curve on that, not be behind it. So these are our predictions of game changers by the year 2020. Nice kind of little play on words, 2020 vision. So we'll jump right in and get started. I think it all starts, oddly enough, with energy and the environment. I mean, I think at the beef group this morning we had some talks about methane gas and about global warming. And regardless of where you are on whether you think global warming is happening or not, the reality is that the consensus among the voting populace is that climate change is a big deal. And because climate change is a big deal, and all the other things related to that come into play. And in fact, I think the energy playing field has perhaps not forever been altered, but at least has been altered for the foreseeable future. Because the reality is that people are worried about this. They're worried about, you know, are we going to run out of fossil fuel like we thought back in the 70s? Probably not. There's more discovery going on now than at any time in history. And of course, as one of the things that I learned in economics at Harvard, I took a class my senior year, and they said that we're never going to run out of oil. Well, how's that? They said, no, the price will get really high, but we'll never run out. Okay? It's a different way of thinking about it, right? As the price goes up, it rations down who can actually use it. It makes alternatives more feasible, and of course, it makes it easier to dig deeper to go get it. Right? And so as you look at global oil reserves, when oil was $25 a barrel, there was a lot less oil that we could feasibly go and extract. Somebody switch? Happily. Is that better? There we go. I don't have to speak so loudly. That's good. But if you look at global oil reserves with the price per oil today, they're dramatically higher. I don't know what exactly the number is, but you know, all of the horizontal drilling that's going on in the northern United States would be all but impossible at $25 a barrel, but is very feasible and lucrative at $100 a barrel. So we have a reality shift. Of course, the other shift that's gone on well, I'll make one other point on energy. You know, realistically, as we look at all the alternatives, we had as stimulus to try to get around our recession, we poured a bunch of money into our alternative energy companies, which are now going broke, like the solar companies and wind companies. But the reality is, unless we want to put up nuclear power plants, there's really not a lot of alternative to using the petroleum that we have. The other option, of course, we've looked at is we put into place this policy in the United States that we're going to encourage the conversion of corn into ethanol. Now, you know, in a room like this, there's probably the full spectrum of perspectives on that. Some of you raise corn and sell it and think it's the greatest thing that ever happened. Some of you own a feedlot and feed it and think it's the worst thing that ever happened, okay? And so we have the full breadth of thought process on that. And I want to spend a few minutes to really try to get us into a little more cohesive bunch on this. The first reality is, even though there's big debate now on whether we're going to continue to subsidize ethanol production, the reality is those plants are already built, okay? And I'm sure you've heard speakers speak on this topic. It's a big point of debate, but those plants are not going to get torn down. They're going to exist. Whether they go broke or stay with current ownership, they're going to continue to process corn and turn it into ethanol. And we're stuck with this reality that give or take 50% of the corn we produce is going to get turned into fuel, okay? And so that's a reality. And the problem or the paradigm shift that has happened is now corn is fuel, okay? Corn used to be food. Now corn is fuel, okay? The highest and best use, unfortunately, is fuel. Why? Because people will pay a lot for fuel, right? And the demand is relatively insatiable, okay? So no matter how much we increase production, corn will be tied to oil price, and I think that's a reality we're going to live with. And that means higher commodity prices. Basically, if we've got $100 oil, which is close to where we're at today. Interestingly, when I first gave this talk 2 years ago, we were down around 80, and I said we're going to go to 100. We're still at 100, and the long-term prospect's still at 100. Okay? Why we're at 100 today is because there's a shortage. We can't get enough out of the ground to meet demand. In the long run, we'll continue to develop more oil. We can debate about the pipeline and all that kind of stuff. I don't really want to go there. But we're going to have more oil come out of the ground. But demand's going to grow. And the best prediction of future prices is to look out to the long-term futures, which go out to the year, I think they go out approximately 10 years out. Those long-term futures have been hovering around $100, okay? So long-term oil price is going to hover around $100. The math is if we have $100 oil, then corn, give or take, is worth $6 a bushel for ethanol production, okay? So if you want a prediction of what's going to happen with corn prices, look at the long-term oil prices. Remember, there's basically, in fact, you can go online, you can pull up the formula. There's a formula they use that predicts the price of corn based on the price of fuel, and the deal holds pretty well. We know in the U.S., if you look at all the experts, they say today that the cost of producing corn is somewhere between $4.25 a bushel and $4.80 a bushel. And so the reality is we're going to be stuck somewhere between that cost of production and that value for fuel, and that's where corn's going to trade. And that's just the reality of it. And that's not going to change. And, of course, that's going to put pressure on all these other grain stuffs. And I think that's just the reality, and that's the reality we're in as things have shifted. And I believe that despite the fact, you know, people say, well, historically, Lee, you know, we increased yield on those crops and prices came back down, and I don't see we're going to increase yield and take this away. Yield is going to go up. Yield's on a straight line trend. It's going to continue to go up on those crops, but we're not going to be able to produce enough corn to outweigh the demand that 50% of it's going to go into that ethanol. And so I think we're just stuck on that trajectory, and that has ramifications for us as livestock producers.